Hello, I am explaining the fifth chapter, Footprints Without Feet, from Footprints Without Feet, book supplementary reader in English for class 10th. Yes, as the title suggests, it is very clear that one invisible person may be described. Yes, it is right. Now, question arises, can a person become invisible? Really? This is the story of a scientist. One person who discovers how to make himself invisible. Does he use or misuse his discovery? Yes, in this chapter, it is really explained that one work can be used in both of the forms, but he misused his discovery. So it is nice chapter. We have to take one nice lesson too. The starting is the two boys started in surprise at the fresh muddy imprints of a pair of bare feet. Yes, two boys were going somewhere. They were totally in shock because they could check fresh muddy steps. But no person was there. What was a barefooted man doing on the steps of a house? So they were just thinking that barefooted man was on the steps in the middle of the London. But where was the man? Actually, they were just checking the stamps of feet, but no person was visible. As they started gazing, staring continuously, a special sight met their eyes. Means they could check one thing, a fresh footmark appeared from nowhere. By chance, another footmark. Further footprints followed, not one time, one after another, as real person walks. So he was descending, means feet were coming the steps and progressing down the street, means feet were going without a body. The boys followed because they were attracted until the muddy impressions became fainter and fainter. Slowly, the feet were becoming faint and at last disappeared. At last they couldn't watch anything. So story is over, small story is over. Now explanation is given why they were getting this kind of sight. The explanation of the mystery was really very simple. The bewildered means the confused boys had been following a scientist who had discovered really how to make human body transparent because he was invisible at that time. That's why the boys were surprised. Now, the name of the scientist was Griffin. He had carried out experiment after experiment. He really did hard work to prove that the human body could really become invisible. He couldn't be seen by anyone. Finally, he swallowed certain rare drugs. Yes, how he did? He took some special extraordinary medicines and his body became as transparent as a sheet of glass, means his body was not visible to anyone, but he remained as solid as glass, means he couldn't be broken. He escaped easily enough from the boys, means it was possible for him to go away from the boys who were following his footprints in London. But his adventures were by no means over. But his works were not over. He had chosen a bad time of the year to wander about London without clothes. So he started just moving here or there in London. It was midwinter, the air was bitterly cold, means he could be here or there without clothes. But by chance, when the weather changed, then it was severe cold. He couldn't do, means he couldn't survive without clothes. That's why instead of walking about the street, he decided to slip into a big London store because he wanted to get some warmth of that place, that is closed area, and that was big London store. Closing time arrived as soon as the doors were shut. Griffin was able to give himself the pleasure of clothing and feeding himself without regard to expense. So what is given that he entered in one store, he had special advantage to get all the clothes, food without giving any money. He broke many boxes, wrappers, fitted himself out with warm clothes. So everything was stolen by him. Soon, with shoes, overcoat and wide brimmed hat. So these three things were appearing. He became fully dressed person, visible person too, but there was no face. In the kitchen of the restaurant, he found cold meat, coffee to eat. To take, he followed up the meal with sweets. The sweets were taken, wine was also taken from the grocery store, and really after that he settled down to sleep on a pile of quilts, means he got total warmth. after getting clothes and proper meal. If only Griffin had managed to wake up in good time, all might have been well. But he went on sleeping. If he had managed to wake up in proper time, everything would have been okay, but it was not so. As it was, he did not wake up. So the assistants were already arriving. So persons were coming in the store. When he saw a couple of them, means when two assistants of big London store were coming, he panicked. He became very nervous. He started running. They naturally gave chase. So it was very natural. One thief was chased by the assistants. In the end, he was able to escape only by quickly taking off his newly found clothes. That's why he just took off all the clothes. So once more he found himself invisible. Again he couldn't be seen, but naked in the chill January air. But he was not able to survive. He was feeling uncomfortable. This time he decided to try the stock of a theatrical company in the hope of finding not only clothes but also something that would hide the empty space above his shoulders. So he started thinking that he would go in one stock of a theatrical company where he could get some extra material to cover above his shoulder body parts. Shivering with cold, he hurried. That's why he quickly went, because he was feeling great cold, to Drury Lane, the center of the theatre world. So this was a special place. He found a nice shop. He made his way invisible upstairs and came out a little later wearing bandages. So he covered his forehead with bandages because he entered in theatrical company. Everything was accessible. Everything was there. Dark glasses, false nose, big bushy side whiskers and large hat too. To escape without being seen, he callously attacked the shopkeeper from behind. Yes, now from here, the negative story starts. That he wanted to save his life. That's why he callously means cruelly, attacked the shopkeeper of that theatrical company, after which he robbed him all of the money he could find. He didn't take all these things, rather he took a lot of money that he could get. So this is the disadvantage of getting this kind of discovery. Eager to get away from crowded London, he took a train to the village of Iping, where he booked 2 rooms at the local inn. Then he left that place, he took one train, and village name is given Iping, and there he booked for himself 2 rooms. The arrival of a stranger at an inn in winter was in any case an unusual event. So it was not common for them. A stranger of such uncommon appearance. Yes, why uncommon? Because he had so many bandages over his face, whiskers and all. That's why all the persons were looking at him, their tongues wagging. Tongues wagging means they started whispering what kind of appearance he had at that time. But Mrs. Hall, who was the landlord's wife, made every effort to be friendly with him. But Griffin had no desire to talk. Miss Mrs. Hall wanted to talk to him, but he was not interested. He told her, my reason for coming to Iping is a desire for solitude. Means he took one special idea to talk, that he wanted total loneliness. I do not wish to be disturbed in my work, and he is busy in his work. Besides, an accident has affected his face, and with this, his face couldn't be seen by him because he is a victim of one special accident. So all the clues were suitable for his appearance. That's why nobody interfered in his life. Satisfied that her guest was an eccentric scientist, so the landlord's wife was totally satisfied that her guest was really crazy person. He was not looking okay at that time. But because he had paid the total money of that inn for 2 rooms in advance, that's why she was satisfied. She was prepared to excuse his strange habits. That's why she was able to tolerate all the crazy habits and his anger temperament too. But the stolen money did not last long. But he started facing one trouble. Whatever money he had taken from the theatrical company, that was over. And presently Griffin had to admit and he had to confess that he had no money. He pretended, but he posed that he was expecting a check to arrive at any moment. Another one clue or one plan was made. He said he posed that he was hoping for one special check at any time. Shortly afterwards, a curious episode occurred. But after that, when he said this, one special incident happened. Very early in the morning, a clergyman and his wife were awakened by noises in the study. Yes, who was making those noises? It is very clear. That is the scientists. Creeping downstairs, they heard the chink of money being taken from the clergyman's desk. Because he needed money, that's why he stole money from a clergyman. Clergyman, you understand, that is religious preacher. One nice person who used to give sermons in the church. So they heard noise, but nothing was visible. Without making any noise and with a poker grasped firmly in his hand, the clergyman flung open the door. He quickly went because he was very sure that his money was being taken. Surrender, he said, you have to give up. But what happened? Nothing was visible. That's why he was totally amazed. He realized that the room appeared to be empty. There was no one. He and his wife, means the clergyman and his wife, were totally shocked. They started checking here or there, under the desk, behind the curtains, even up the chimney. There was not a sign of any person. Yet the desk had been opened. They were very sure that their housekeeping money was nowhere. Extraordinary affair, the clergyman kept saying for the rest of the day. He went on saying that this was a rare thing that happened with him. Money was nowhere, noises were heard, but nobody was there. He was very sure something was wrong there, something was fishy. But it was not as extraordinary as the behavior of Mrs. Hall's furniture a little later that morning. Now, what is given? That was not so extraordinary, not so rare. One more thing happened after that. The landlord and his wife were up very early. The landlord himself, the owner of that inn, he and his wife, they were up very early, means they were awakened. They were totally surprised to see that the scientist's door was open. That's why they were totally shocked why this was happening. Usually it was shut because he wanted isolation. That's why they were just checking. They were very curious. He was very curious. He stands for the landlord. He wanted to know if anyone had entered in the home of the scientist. The opportunity seemed too good to be missed. He was so curious. He wanted to go inside. So both started peeping round the door. Saw nobody. Decided to investigate. That's why they entered in that room of the scientist. The bedclothes were cold, showing that the scientist must have been up for some time. So they started checking the clothes. There was no warmth of human being. So he was nowhere. The stranger still, the clothes, bandages that he always wore were lying about the room. They were checking all the clothes that he used to wear, all the bandages, because he gave one clue that he was victim of one accident. Everything was lying here or there in hodgepodge manner. All of a sudden, Mrs. Hall heard a sniff close to her ear. But Mrs. Hall was able to hear one special sniff. She could smell something. A moment later, the hat on the bedpost leapt up. Just after 1 minute, the hat of that man started going upward side, dashed itself into her face, means it was thrown into her face, means she was being attacked. Then the bedroom chair became alive. Now all the things started moving. First, the bedroom chair got life, springing into the air. It charged, means it was appearing that one person was holding and charging, means throwing that chair at her, legs foremost. As she and her husband turned away in terror, they were totally terrified because it was like the ghostly affair. The extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room. They had been thrown by someone, but invisible, and then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. Then the door was locked with a great thud, great noise. Mrs. Hall almost fell down the stairs in hysterics. Means she was not okay. She got a lot of uncomfortable situations at that time. She was convinced, but she was persuaded that the room was really haunted, was occupied by the spirits, by the ghosts, that the stranger had somehow caused these to enter into her furniture. And she started thinking that one magic had been created, and that was specially upon her furniture. My poor mother used to sit in that chair, she moaned. She started wailing when she was very superstitious lady. That's why she started feeling my poor mother used to sit in that chair. I think to think it should rise up against me now. And I think she will rise, means the chair would rise. The feeling among the neighbors was that the trouble was caused by witchcraft. Everyone was thinking, yes, magic was there. But witchcraft or not, when news of the burglary at the clergyman's home became known, when all the persons came to know that the money was stolen, the strange scientist was strongly suspected of having had a hand in it, then all the persons became suspicious about the behavior of that scientist. Suspicion grew even stronger, and all the persons got more doubts about that person. When he suddenly produced some ready cash, and by chance cash was given, so it was clear earlier he had told that he didn't have money and he was expecting to get one special check. The village constable was secretly sent for. Because of that, village constable, one special inspector was called, but nothing was told to that invisible man. Instead of waiting for the constable, Mrs. Hall went to the scientist. By chance, she went to that man who had somehow mysteriously appeared from his empty bedroom, because he came by chance from his empty bedroom earlier, where both were there, the landlord and his wife. I want to know what you have been doing to my chair upstairs, she demanded. She wanted to know what he was doing with her furniture, and I want to know how it is you came out of an empty room, and she wanted to know from where he appeared by chance, and how you entered a locked room, because the room was locked. She was totally surprised. That's why she started demanding all the answers of these questions. The wife of the landlord was totally shocked. The scientist was always quick tempered. Yes, he was famous for his anger. Now he became furious. He became very, very aggressive. You don't understand who or what I am. He started crying. Oh, you can't understand who I am. Okay, very well. Note down. I will tell you quickly. Suddenly he threw off all the bandages, whiskers, spectacles, even nose. All the things that he had got from the theatrical company. He just took off all those things. All the things were just thrown here or there. It took him only a minute to do this because he got special speed. The horrified people in the bar found themselves staring at a headless man. All the persons were really terrified. They were shocked to check one person who didn't have head. Mr. Jeffers, this was the name of the constable. He arrived because he was called, was quite surprised to find that he had to arrest a man without a head, but he wanted to complete his duty. He was a dutiful person. If a magistrate warrant ordered a person's arrest, he started saying, this was the order, with or without head. I had to do this. Who started saying Mr. Jeffers. Now what happened? This is also one extraordinary incident. There followed a remarkable scene as the policeman tried to get hold of a man he started chasing, who was becoming more and more invisible because he was just putting off one after another cloth piece. Finally, a shirt flew into the air. One shirt was thrown, then Constable found himself struggling with someone he couldn't see. He had to fight with one invisible man. Some people tried to help him. All the persons were watching the scene. They tried to help that man, that is Jeffers, but found themselves hit by blows. But they were getting continuous blows, hits by invisible man. And they couldn't check where they had to hit. In the end, Jeffers was knocked unconscious. And it happened. Jafar was really hit by him and he couldn't move. He became swooned. As he made a last attempt to hold on to unseen scientist, he was trying till the last moment when he got his conscious. He just lost his conscious. Whenever he was in his awareness, he tried his total efforts to arrest him, but it was not possible. There were nervous, excited cries of hold him. All the persons were just crying because they were very, very tense. They were feeling one special excitement. Please hold him, you have to catch. But this was easier said than done. Because Jeffers was unconscious, he was not moving, he was swooned, that's why he couldn't do. And it is every time very easy to say something than to do. Griffin had shaken himself free. Again he was free. And no one knew where to lay hands on him. And nobody could understand how they could catch him. Yes, now the story ends. That is written by H.G. Wells. Yes, Wells wants to say that any discovery, any work should be used for good cause. But scientists did totally opposite of that. Let's start. Think about it. First question. Griffin was rather a lawless person. Comment. Yes, he was a brilliant scientist, but he was a lawless person. His landlord disliked him and he wanted to eject him from his home. That's why, in revenge, how he set fire to the house. And he was not interested to be looked at. That's why he removed his clothes. So he became a homeless wanderer, without clothes, without money, quite invisible. He started wandering here or there. And he every time disturbed many fellows. He hit many blows to Jeffers. He went on abusing so many persons. That's why we can say that his discovery was not of any use to the society. And he was quite lawless person. Now, second question, how would you assess Griffin as a scientist? Yes, I think Griffin was an eccentric scientist. Though he was very brilliant, he went on doing experiment after experiments to prove that body can be transparent. But after getting this proven, he went on cheating all the fellows. He stole a lot of money. He went on taking so many clothes, so many things from here or there, from London store first, then theatrical company. He didn't do this only. Rather, he cheated the clergyman, his wife. He stole money from them. Then he went on becoming one special source of shocking news for all the fellows here or there. And in the last, he did very bad with Mr. Jeffers, who was constable, and he hit many fellows in this way. So we can say, as a scientist, he may be very brilliant. He went on discovering so many things, but as a person, he was not a good man. So as a scientist, he was very, very brilliant. Now talk about it. Would you like to become invisible? What advantages and disadvantages do you foresee if you did? Yes, I would not like to become invisible. Why to be invisible? I want to be seen by others. I want to be friendly with others. But if by chance I got this opportunity, I would do the nicest things in the world. I would try to just take all the things in the right direction. I would try to just get rid of all the poverty ridden fellows from their mishappening. Then we can say that I would every time be advantageous for the society by doing good, by being invisible. Now, second question, are there forces around us that are invisible? For example, magnetism. Are there aspects of matter that are invisible or not visible to the naked eye? What would the world be like if you could see such forces or such aspects of matter? Yes, I think some things are invisible and they are very good for the human beings. Suppose if all the things are quite visible, quite clear, then no one would be God fearing. everyone would be very scientific. Everyone would not be so nice for the humanity. So I think such forces are very natural. Some things should be invisible so that man may be curious, anxious to know about the invisible powers or things. And that's why they are every time in our surrounding, and they are the best part of nature, because we don't know mysterious are the ways of God or nature, and they look mysterious, they look very very attractive because they are not quite visible to our naked eye. What makes glass or water transparent? Is it a scientific question? So answer can be the refractive index of water and glass is low, due to which refraction takes place and light passes through it without being reflected, as in the case of opaque objects. That's why it happens that glass or water looks transparent.